Today's Jazz Guitar Lesson Daily, we're going to talk about Monk, the blues, and the most practical and efficient way to get unstuck from theory and start working on your musicianship. So today's lesson is going to be an extension of the last two, was primarily we were talking about taking a major triad and adding tension 6. So specifically C major triad, adding an A note to it. Let's do a quick recap before we move forward. Today what I want to do is I just want to take that and just play like over tunes with it. Specifically probably just a blues. Kind of an old school Monk style blues. But before we get there, let's just do a quick recap in case some of you didn't see the last 2 days. So we're playing C major triad with an A note added, but it's best not to think of this as a C6 arpeggio. Okay? If you need help with this position, with playing it, you can grab the PDF links in the description. It's all notated for you. C, E, G, A, C, E, G, A, C, E, G, A, C. Right, that would be 3 octaves. If we're just playing up and back it, that's kind of your classic arpeggio, right? That's all we're doing is we're outlining a chord. Good for dexterity, good for picking technique, for coordination between the hands, for learning to see chord shapes and arpeggio shapes on the fretboard. But unless you want to sound like this, which to me is very robotic, unless you want to sound like that when you're improvising, you might want to be careful about not overdoing it too much in the practice shed, playing this shape over and over and over, because you're training your mind, your ears, your eyes, your fingers, your heart. You're training your whole nervous system, your neuromuscular system to play that. Right? Practice doesn't make perfect. You're not going to play that up and back 50,000 times and immediately become a master at making music with it or bringing it to life. You're going to become more masterful at playing it up and back. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. So you're just going to get better and better at playing it that way, which is an important skill to develop. But what we want to do is we want to talk about the melodic triad element of using this as a quadratonic, where we have the 3 triad notes, which are melodically very stable. They're like our anchor points for our single note improvisation. And then we have the A note, the tension 6, that's just kind of this little jerk who's coming in and knocking up against everybody and causing tension, which we can then resolve back into the triad. And that creates sort of melodic momentum that carries our lines forward. It puts tension and release into our lines. We have the tension note, we have the resolution points. So by taking advantage of this way of thinking about the same 4 pitches, C, E, G, A, we can imply the sound of C6 without being sort of annoying about it. Right, that's an A note, tension 6, resolving down to G. I'm throwing an extra note, a C note in between. Or I could throw the E note underneath it in. We can start to make out the sound of a blues progression, a basic 1-4-5, because I'm implying the sound of a C6 chord without that's the big difference between the arpeggio version and the quadratonic. Okay, the quadratonic is like a mini scale. Pentatonic scale is 5 notes, quadratonic note is 4 notes. But even a scale is not the right word for this, because it is a set of notes. We can play it as an arpeggio. We can play it as a scale, which would basically sound the exact same as the arpeggio. What we're looking for is tension and resolution, right? Anchor points, melodic anchor points, and melodic sort of drama notes, emotion, tension, okay? So that's what we've been talking about so far this week for the last 2 lessons. What I was kind of thinking about doing was honestly just applying it to a basic 1-4-5 blues, kind of like I just played, and show you how much juice we can squeeze out of this note. I know to the mind it seems too simple, like there's not enough stuff there to make something musical with it, but by taking all those things away from me conceptually, like I'm taking all the ideas, the music theory ideas away, and just leaving this one stupid, simple little thing, by doing that, it's forcing me as a human being to step up and fill that void. Because there's no additional notes, there's no advanced concepts, there's nothing else to fill that void, so I have to. Which means I have to come in, I have to think about phrasing, I have to think about silence and space, I have to think about repetition, dynamics, all the human elements that make things sound musical, right? Chances are good you probably don't want to listen to like a computer improvise jazz, because it's just going to sound like it's lacking something. And that's the human being, okay? That's why I always talk about this idea that like the one magic secret, the big trick, the special ingredient that can make or break music is missing from every college theory class, every music theory textbook, every YouTube video. None of them will ever talk about this, and that's you. That's like your willingness to sit with one stupid little concept and take ownership of it in your ears and your fingers, and to try and express your own creativity, your humor, your sorrow, your joy through that one little idea. Like take a theory book and pull one sentence out of it, one paragraph out of it, right? Just take one little topic and just sit with it until you understand how to use it. Like a chef picking a new herb that they've never cooked with before and smelling it and tasting it and breaking it up into little pieces and reading books about it and, you know, seeing what happens when you mix it with vegetables versus meat. Like anything you can think of to do, as long as it's authentic to you. So here is basic 1-4-5 blues. We'll do this in C major. In fact, maybe before we do this, I'll do like a quick analysis of 1 or 2 blues tunes that are using this sound already. This is not reinventing the wheel. This is just giving names to sounds that already exist in the music, in the tradition. So I'll start there and then I'll play around a little bit so you can hear this in action. But all I'm going to do is C blues. For C major, I'm going to play C triad tension 6, right? Which is the same set of pitches as a C6 arpeggio, but it's not an arpeggio. And then for F, for the 4 chord, for F dominant, I'm going to play F major tension 6. And then for the 5 chord G, I'm going to play G major tension 6. That's it. I'm just going to use the 1-4-5 major triad, each one with its own tension 6. Okay, so tension 6 meaning the 6th degree above that root note. So C triad with an A note, F triad with a D note, and G triad with an E note. Okay. Let's look at 1 or 2 quick examples of blues tunes that have this sound built into them, like legit blues tunes that we should all know. And then I'll just play over it a little bit so you can kind of hear how it would work and hopefully get inspired to have the patience to sit and try and make this stuff happen on your own. Blue Monk, right? There's no arpeggios in Blue Monk. There's really almost no dominant 7s, like flat 7 notes or chord tones. Okay, if we take the chromaticism out of the melody, the first chord is a B flat 7. Right, he's connecting the 3rd and the 5th of the B flat triad chromatically. So we could kind of boil that chromaticism out. We could just take it away and say, let's keep this a little bit simpler. We can always add it back in, but for now, let's take it out. So it's third of the triad to the fifth of the triad. Then he goes to the 4 chord, E flat. Again, third of the triad to the fifth of the triad. When he goes back to the 1 chord, he does 5, tension 6, 5. Some chromaticism. So far, this is all major triad tension 6 notes. Again, third up to the fifth. There he goes to the flat 7. 5, 6, right? Triad, tension 6. Okay? And then over the dominant, the 5 chord, he just plays just the root note. That's it. 5, tension 6. Okay? That's like one of the most famous jazz blues heads ever. And it's basically everything we've been talking about for the last 3 lessons with a little bit of chromaticism. Let me put this back in the key of C because that's where I notated the tension 6 quadratonic. Right, C. Played attention to, sorry. Okay. I played a couple of sort of wrong tension notes, like I played tension 2, you know, in theory they were right. I was trying to avoid them, but sometimes we get into the moment, we hear certain notes and our ears and our fingers just really want to go there, and so we go there. The cool thing about practicing quadratonics and focusing on one note at a time, again, to talk about like a chef getting to know a new flavor, a new herb, a new spice, a new fruit, whatever it is that by sitting and just tasting it alone for a while, alone meaning just the chef, no one else, but also meaning just the food, just the new ingredient with nothing else, it gives them a very personal experience of that flavor that you can't get from reading a book, right? And the more they taste that and think about it and smell it and have that subjective personal experience, just them and the bare, vulnerable, naked ingredient, the more they do that, the more clearly and directly they understand how to use it, right? They're developing their palate so that when they want to cook a food and they're looking for that, what's that one ingredient I can add to make this dish better? Oh yeah, I know what it is because I can taste it. That's what we're trying to do with sound, in this case with our tension 6. We want to just get to know it to the point that we can improvise with it and create, you know, strong sounding phrases, melodies, music. Right now we're not talking about virtuosity or technique or speed or anything. We're just looking for musicianship. There's a big difference between musicianship and solid, fancy guitar playing. They're both great, but if I had to pick one or the other, I would pick musicianship. Ideally, I want both. We also have a couple of other blues tunes that we mentioned over the last few lessons. Tenor Madness uses this sound. That sounds like Doxy all of a sudden. I'm hearing Sonny Rollins' Doxy, Tenor Madness, Olio. These aren't blues anymore, but these are just all Sonny tunes that are coming to mind that all use this tension 6. What were some of the other ones that we mentioned the other day? I can't remember now. There was another Monk tune that I can't think of off the top of my head all of a sudden. Freddie Freeloader. Right, just tension 6 down to the 5. Can you hear it? If you looked through the real book, you would just see tune after tune after tune after tune after tune after tune that's getting into the sound of this tension 6. Again, I'm not reinventing the wheel here. I know I might be using different words than some of you are familiar with if you're new to melodic triads, but all I'm doing is isolating one particular element, one building block of our jazz vocabulary. And it's not even just jazz, it's in classical music and pop and country and rock, it's everywhere. But I'm just isolating one element of it out and just putting it under the microscope and letting our ear examine it, right? And giving it a name so that we know how to discuss it and our mind can kind of organize it and give us a chance at gaining control over it. What's the name of that tune? That's a tune. You guys know that tune. I can't think of the name of it all of a sudden. Yeah, I don't really have too much more I want to talk about today because I don't want to clog up the conversation with more advanced concepts. Yes, we can make it more advanced. We can add chromaticism into it like Monk does. We can add leading tones. We can add additional tension notes. But again, it's like the chef adding more flavors to his palate. When he's trying to train his palate to understand a new ingredient, it's best not to, mess with that. Like, just let it be that one ingredient. Just smell it, taste it, feel the texture of it, experiment with that and that alone, and then start combining it with other stuff. Like, once you really understand on a personal level, in here and in here, what this ingredient sounds and feels like. Okay? That's all I got for today. Let me check in with you guys. Tomorrow is how chords move, so I will be back to discuss some chord movement. Sandu, that's it, Gary. Thank you, that was gonna drive me nuts. Billy's Bounce, that was the other tune that we discussed earlier. Blue and Green, is tension 6 in Blue and Green? I don't know if tension 6 is in there. I know we have been talking about Blue and Green a lot. And maybe it came up in a different conversation recently, but I don't think that this quadratonic is in it. I could be wrong about that. Great tune to work on anyways. In that tune, I could sit here all day exploring that thing harmonically. Anyways, thank you guys for hanging. Tomorrow we're going to do some comping ideas, how chords move for Thursdays. But keep things simple. Give your ears a chance to get into the game. I know jazz musicians, we like to approach everything from the brain, from the intellect, from the theory. All great stuff to know and understand, but no matter how much theory you have up here, if you're not letting your ears get into the game, then you're not ever going to be able to take things personally, to like bring yourself into the picture, right? That's the one secret ingredient that's missing from all the theory textbooks and the YouTube videos and the college courses. They're all teaching up here, and I'm talking about trying to get you to connect your ear and your heart into that picture also, okay? The mind is a good manager. It's not a good CEO. Your fingers are your employees, right? You got to tell your employees what you want from them. A lot of musicians let the fingers run the show. The CEO and the manager have left the building and the employees are just doing whatever they want to do, which is okay sometimes if they're good employees, but if you haven't trained them properly, it can cause a big problem. Most of us, because of the way jazz is taught, most of us think that the mind is kind of the CEO. Like that it's in control of everything. I think the mind is best as the manager, right? Meaning that it's in charge of telling the employees specifically what to do, but there has to be something above the manager that's giving the bigger picture orders of the direction we want the company to move in, right? Like a CEO telling the manager to tell the employees, and the CEO is sort of the heart and the ear. You could kind of say it's really more the heart and the soul, but the ear is the only way to communicate with it, for it to hear the information and to convey to the minds, like, this is what I want from you, right? So keep that imagery in mind and try and let your personal self, your heart, your emotions, your soul have a place in the show. And the only way to get there is to pay attention with the ear, simplify things, isolate things, experiment, and just ask yourself, how does this sound? Do I like what this sounds like? How does it feel to me? What emotions does it bring up? How does it want to move? And then that's asking the mind, the manager, like, who do you think should work the night shift tonight? Right? Who's been good? Who deserves a raise? Like, those questions can only be asked once we understand that there's someone else to ask it. If you're looking for the answers up here from theory books and YouTube videos and college courses, then you're going to miss the real meat, the real point of all of this stuff. And then the fingers should follow all of the directions, ideally. Play around with that. Have fun with the blues. Check out the PDF if you need it. Tomorrow we'll be talking about how chords move, and I will see you then. Happy practicing. Hey YouTube, it's Jordan Clemens with NYC Jazz Guitar Master Classes and the Melodic Triad Study Group. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I have a ton of content coming out on YouTube this year. We've been doing daily jazz guitar lessons, so I'm going to be posting videos like this pretty much every day. So if you dug this and you want to follow me, subscribe and make sure that you turn on notifications so that you can watch more videos like this. Thanks again for watching. Hope to see you in the comment section. Hope to see you in the next video.